A dragon has never left a living rider. Not once in centuries of Targaryen history. Until now. Vhagar didn't get shot down. She wasn't stolen. She flew away, on her own, in the middle of the night, and left the most dangerous man in Westeros standing in the dark, asking why. This isn't a summary of the episode. If you want a play-by-play, this isn't that video. This is the one question worth actually answering. What does it mean that the strongest bond in this entire universe, a bond that's supposed to be unbreakable, just broke? By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what severed that connection, why it says something much bigger about how power actually works in this story, and why the same thing that happened to Aemond and his dragon is quietly happening to almost every powerful person in King's Landing right now. To understand how big this moment is, you need to understand what the show has spent 3 seasons establishing as an absolute law. A dragon bonds to one rider. That bond isn't a leash, it isn't training, it's something closer to a marriage. Vhagar herself has outlived 3 riders before Aemond, and every single time, the loyalty was never in question once it was formed. Dragons roost near their rider. They answer commands. They do not simply get up and disappear into the night because they felt like it. So when Vhagar flies off and leaves Aemond alive, awake, and begging her to stay, the show isn't giving you a random plot beat. It's breaking its own most sacred rule, on screen, without an explanation handed to you. That's not an accident. That's a mystery built on purpose. And the answer starts with what happens to Aemond in the hours before she leaves. Let's rebuild exactly what we see, in order, because the order matters. Aemond is hiding at Harrenhal, physically wrecked and running a fever, guarded, if you can call it that, by the midwife Alys Rivers. He wakes from a nightmare so vivid he pulls a blade on her before he's even fully conscious. He's seeing Aegon's face on fire, dragging him into the dark. He's replaying Helena's prophecy of his own death. And in the middle of that breakdown, he does something we have never once seen this character do. He cries, and he whispers for his mother. Alys comforts him, not like a captor managing a hostage, like someone who understands exactly which wound to press on. And it's only after this moment, after he's been reduced to his most vulnerable, that he discovers Vhagar is gone. His reaction tells you everything about what that bond means to him. He doesn't ask where she went. He collapses at the edge of the castle and says the only thing that matters to him in that moment. Without her, he is nothing. Here's the leading theory, and it holds up disturbingly well once you line up the pieces. Alys Rivers has a documented history of manipulation. She spent a season slowly wrapping Daemon around her influence at this exact castle. In this episode, she's shown administering a glowing blue potion to Aemond, while he's feverish and half-conscious. The show frames it as medicine. Almost nobody in universe questions that framing. But look at what happens immediately after. Total memory gaps, a dragon vanishing without warning, and a man who can't account for hours of his own night. And if you look at George R.R. Martin's Fire and Blood, this lines up perfectly with lore. In the book, Eustace and Mushroom directly label Alys as a woods witch, surrounded by rumors of dark magic, visions, and blood spells used to manipulate the minds of highborn lords. The theory: Aemond didn't lose Vhagar. He sent her away himself, sleepwalking, sedated, not in control of his own commands, and the combination of fever and whatever was in that potion erased the memory entirely. From his perspective, she abandoned him. From a colder, more calculated perspective, someone made sure he'd never remember giving the order. If that's true, Alys isn't comforting a broken man out of sympathy. She's disarming the single most dangerous weapon in the war, one whispered word at a time, while he thinks she's the only person left who cares about him. Even if you set the potion theory aside for a second, the show just told you something crucial about how these bonds actually work. And it's not what 3 seasons led you to believe. If a dragon can only be commanded, protected, or held by a rider who is psychologically whole, then the bond was never purely magical or biological. It's a bond of will. Aemond's collapse, his guilt over Aegon, the crushing weight of a prophecy telling him exactly how he dies, his regression into a frightened child calling for his mother, didn't just make him weaker as a person. It may have made him incapable of holding on to the one thing that made him powerful. That reframes everything about what a dragon rider actually is in this story. Not a person who owns a weapon. A person whose grip on that weapon is only as strong as their own mind. Which means the scariest thing in this episode isn't the dragon flying away. It's the idea that the same could happen to anyone else holding power in this war, the second their mind starts to crack. Rhaenyra has more dragons than anyone alive. She sits the throne. On paper, she's untouchable. And this episode spends its entire runtime proving that none of that matters. While she's distracted by grief and paranoia, Lord Ormund Hightower is dismantling her from a castle leagues away, without ever putting a dragon in the sky. He has her city watchman quietly assassinated. He funds the graffiti campaign branding her the Queen of Bastards. He mints coins with a rival heir's face on them and turns a child into currency. None of it requires fire. All of it requires patience. It ends with the single most brutal image of the season. Daemon walking into his own barracks to find every one of his men murdered and propped around a table. Eyes gouged out, a message written in their blood, a feast for traitors. Rhaenyra has the biggest weapon in the world, sitting in her own courtyard, and it is completely useless against a man patient enough to attack the plumbing instead of the walls. That's the same lesson as Vhagar. Raw power, a dragon, a throne, an army, means nothing the moment the will behind it gets compromised. Ormund isn't fighting Rhaenyra's dragons. He's fighting her mind, her treasury, her ability to trust the people around her. Exactly like Alys Rivers is fighting Aemond's. And then the episode gives you the same idea one more time, stripped of dragons and armies entirely, down to its rawest form. Alicent drinks poison herself just to protect a lie that shields her daughter. She and Helaena dress as servants and slip through the Red Keep's secret passages, only to find the corridor bricked up, a dead end built generations ago, sealing them in the dark, with nothing but rats and a dying lantern. Two of the most powerful women in the realm, and the castle itself, the physical seat of their family's power, becomes the thing that traps them. Whether Mysaria orchestrated it or it's simple bad luck almost doesn't matter. The point lands the same way it does with Vhagar and with Rhaenyra's throne. Status doesn't protect you from being isolated, controlled, or quietly neutralized by the very structure you thought belonged to you. So why did Vhagar really leave Aemond? Maybe it was blood magic in a blue vial. Maybe it was simply a mind too shattered to hold on to anything, let alone a dragon. But the real answer is bigger than one scene. This episode isn't about dragons abandoning riders. It's about every form of power in this story turning out to be borrowed, held only as long as the mind, the loyalty, or the walls around it stay intact. The second any of those crack, even the strongest bond in Westeros can just fly away into the dark. Here's what I want to know. Do you think Alys Rivers deliberately drugged Aemond and sent Vhagar away on purpose? Or do you think his own psychological collapse severed that bond, with no one else's hand involved? Tell me your read in the comments. I'm answering the best theories personally. And if you're into stories where the real villain is a manipulator hiding behind a system nobody questions, I broke down that exact pattern in Silo. Links right here. Watch that next.